Welcome once again to Along the Rio Grande. I'm George Torok, and today we have in our studio Deen Underwood from the Concordia Heritage Association. She's the immediate past president and the present secretary, and she's going to tell us a little bit about Concordia Cemetery and how the association was formed. Deen, welcome to Along the Rio Grande.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what Concordia Cemetery is. Where is it?
It's off I-10 past what we call the Spaghetti Bowl. It's about 3 miles from downtown, corner of Yandell and Stevens Street.
And how much of an area does it cover?
About 56 acres.
Oh, so it's quite a large area. What are some of the different areas of Concordia Cemetery? What kind of people are buried there?
Well, we have 9 basic areas. We have the Jewish, the Masonic, the Chinese, the Protestant, Catholic, city paupers, county paupers, and the black section.
And how long have people been put in Concordia Cemetery? How far back does it go?
Well, about to 1854, when Hugh Stevenson called Stevensonville Concordia after his favorite city in Missouri. And his wife was one of the first people buried there, Juan Ascarity Stevenson. It was an Ascarity land grant to begin with. And she died. She was gored by a pet deer, which is an unusual way to die. But that was in 1856.
So some of the graves go back 150 years or so?
Yes, about 150 years.
Okay. And how's the cemetery changed over the years?
Well, at one time it was described as the most beautiful cemetery in the Southwest, and the Jewish part still is quite beautiful, but it has fallen, unfortunately, in disrepair, and we are striving in the Concordia Heritage Association to repair some of the stones, upright them, remove graffiti, get water lines put in, things like this, grade the roads, so that it will again one day be as beautiful as it was before.
And we have some famous people that are buried there?
Oh, absolutely. Of course, everyone knows the most famous one is John Wesley Hardin, who was only about 4 months in El Paso, but he set up his shingle across from the El Paso Del Norte Hotel downtown and was an attorney. And he was shot by John Selman, who is also buried in Concordia, but we don't know where. We're not exactly sure because there weren't any records of that, other than the obit that he was buried in Concordia. But we've still got to look for his grave. Hopefully someday we'll find it. Then another interesting character is Jake Ehrlich, who was one time the tallest man in the world at 8'6". And he came to El Paso when he was about 12, went to El Paso High, worked at the Popular, and people knew him from driving around from the back seat of his car. He had the front seat taken out because his legs were so long. And he joined the Ringling, Barnum, and Bailey Brothers Circus and traveled all over the world with them.
Let's talk a little bit about the association. What kinds of things is it involved in?
Mainly the restoration, renovation, and preservation of Concordia. It is so much a part of El Paso's history. A lot of the early movers and shakers of early El Paso are buried out there. And as you know from our walk through history, we portray a lot of those characters and bring them back to life.
How did the walk through history get started?
About in 1992, a few people got together and decided that it would be interesting if the ghost stood beside the grave in period costume and talked about their lives. This is what I did from El Paso in first person, and eventually ended up with this is how I died.
So we have people out there portraying people that are buried in the cemetery.
Absolutely.
And they tell their story during the walk through history?
Yes.
And this is an annual event that's been organized by the association?
Every April during Heritage Month, usually the first part of April, we're out there.
And how many characters do we have?
About 70 that we
many.
portray.
And they tell the story of the person, what their contribution is to El Paso, what role they played in the development?
Right, and a lot of interesting trivia.
Let's take a look at one of the characters, Charles Logan, and he's portrayed by El Paso Community College professor Leon Blevins, who's very active in the association. Let's see Mr. Blevins tell us a little bit about Charles Logan.
Welcome to Concordia Cemetery Walk Through History, the year 2000. We're glad that you're here. I'm Charles Logan, and this is my sister, Grace Logan. Our parents were Major Tom Logan and Eveline Logan. Our father was a professional Army officer. In fact, I'm wearing a belt buckle from his Army days right now. Tom Logan, when he retired from the Army as a major, he was at Fort Bliss, and he homesteaded what has come to be known as Logan Heights in northeast El Paso. He took us to various places. We were born in Logansport, Indiana. One of the more interesting places we lived was Montana. Our father was an Indian fighter. In Montana, the Dakota Territories, he fought the Sioux Indians. Eventually, we came to the warm area of the Southwest, and he was in charge of Fort Hancock, about 50 miles down the river. We were glad when he moved to Fort Bliss because there was more activity here. Grace especially was glad we moved here because we had more parties here. El Paso was famous for the railroad coming through in the 1880s, and it brought with it all kinds of houses of ill repute, houses of prostitution, lots of bars and saloons popped up, and this was an interesting place to be in law enforcement. There were lots of marshals, U.S. Marshals, Texas Rangers. I happened to be a U.S. Customs agent. Where you're standing, Concordia, was a ranch that became a cemetery. There were ranches up and down this east side of the Franklin Mountains, and it was very common for Mexican rustlers to come over up the river through what is now Trans Mountain Drive area, down in here, raid the ranches, and go back down into the riverbed and back into Mexico. The big problem for those of us in customs was that kind of smuggling, gun smuggling, and whiskey smuggling. Those were the big issues back at the turn of the century. As it turned out, in the Customs Service, one day, the day I died, March 19th, 1908, I was born in 1866 at the end of the Civil War. I died in 1908. That day, I went to my boss, Collector Sharp, and I said, I don't want to work with C.E. Jones anymore. He's lazy. And I'm assigned to work with him tonight, and he's going to get us killed. And Sharp said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to file a formal complaint of dereliction of duty against him. So I did the paperwork. The problem was, in law enforcement, when you have a backup, you want him to stay awake and protect you when you're asleep. And riding the line down on the river, there were days I would wake up and he would be lying there snoring, which meant he and I were both asleep at the same time. That's deadly. Sharp said, just one more night, ride the line. I said, okay, tonight I'll ride the line. But I died that night. Because what happened, we got down to the bosky area in a dry riverbed and we tied up our horses, hid our food. We were fixing our rolls for our bedding, and suddenly words were said, and I pointed my finger at him and said, I'm going to get you fired. I filed a dereliction of duty charge against you today. And suddenly he whipped out his .45 and bang, he shot me right through the chest. I was wearing a slicker. It was raining a little bit that night.
That was Leon Blevins playing the role of Charles Logan at this year's Walk Through History. There's a lot of different people that are portrayed there, many of them African American. What's their role in El Paso history?
We have a lot of Buffalo soldiers actually buried there. Britt McCoy and Bertha Johnson are two that have historical markers from the military cemetery. We'd like to get some others marked. There are about 20 that we know of. One famous black person was Florida J. Wolfe, known as Lady Flo, and she married Lord Beresford, an Irish lord, and the youngest of 5 sons. And he owned a cattle business which she managed. She was the brains of the organization. She was a very tall, stately woman, gave wonderful parties. In fact, John Selman Jr. said she gave away gold-headed walking canes when she had one of her affairs, and he didn't know what it was for, but he sure felt elegant when he had it with him. And legend says that she entertained Buffalo Bill Cody and a lot of famous characters. And she is portrayed out there. And we also have John Woods, who made the first bell for the St. Clement's Church, and he's buried in the black Masonic section. The black section, when you come in the Yandell Gate, is immediately on your right, and we suspect there are between 4,000 and 5,000 blacks buried over in that section.
Let's take a look at one African American who spent much of his life in El Paso. This is John Woods, as portrayed by Harry Jackson.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just want to share with you a few moments about the lives of John and Mary Woods. I'm John, of course, and this is Mary, my wife. And I want to share with you how we came to meet each other and some of the things that we encountered. I came from Richmond, Virginia in 1864. I was a slave there on the James River. from my birth until age 32, when the president signed the Emancipation Proclamation in September of '62. As you probably know, the Emancipation Proclamation was enacted in January of '63. The reason for the delay was to allow owners to process paperwork for those slaves who wanted to enjoy their freedom. So then after this was completed, we were given what we as former slaves call the Freedom Pass. And that protected us as we traveled wherever we were going, in my case, west. When anyone would stop us, we could show that we were not runaway slaves, but that we were authorized now to be free and to pursue whatever we could achieve. I came to El Paso, as I mentioned, in 1864. I had learned a trade of the blacksmith during my slavery days, and when I came to El Paso by horseback, I brought my equipment with me. I traveled on occasions with other wagon trains to earn my way and to eat and to get out of the weather for some time, but that was just the way things were done in those years. When I arrived in El Paso, I set up a little shop on the northwest corner of the San Jacinto Plaza, and there's where I set up my work and began to work. And what was unique about those days is that a person performing a job or a task was not paid with money. We were paid with an agreement of land. And sometimes it may be a half acre, it may be a full acre. But this was how we were able, and I was able, to acquire land. Subsequently, I would sell the land for money to allow me to then enter other enterprises. Now, about a year and a half later, as I often did, I would go out and watch the stage come in to see who was new coming to town. And at this time, the young lady got off the stage, and she was black, and I was black, and I was prominent, so I figured I had a good chance. So I went over and I talked with this lady, Mary Villar, and helped her to get all settled. And after about 4 months of courtship, we were married. Now, Mary and I did not have any problems working. We were very devoted to one another and to what we were pursuing, and that was individualism. When we came into El Paso, and I think this is very important, when we came into El Paso, we being black folk, we were not a threat to the area because, one, there were so few of us, and secondly, and I think this is probably equally as important, is that I came in with a trade. I could contribute something to the area, and it was an area that was growing, so that I became a part of that growth.
Wow, that was pretty interesting. That was John Woods, portrayed by Harry Jackson, one of the many characters at this year's Walk Through History. Now, there's a lot of other things going on, a lot of other types of entertainment going on at the Walk Through History as well, besides the characters. What kinds of things did we have out there this year?
Well, we have a lot of food. We have the country store. We have the Centurion singing group singing. We have Ulysses, who's a buffalo soldier on his horse, going around. We have rides for the kids. So it's very interesting.
And one of the main attractions that draws a lot of attention are the gunfights.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're part of the Six Guns and Shady Ladies group. What's that group do? What kinds of things? We do
historical reenactments, some historical and some hysterical, just for fun. But in one of the skits, I play Tilly Howard, who was an early madam of El Paso, and a shootout in her backyard by Bass Outlaw and John Selman, in which Bass Outlaw gets killed.
So these are different reenactments of famous gunfights that have taken place in El Paso?
Yes, sir. And we also have a famous one between two madams, Alice Abbott and Etta Clark. It was called the Public Arch, or they meant to say something else, but in any case, it was correct.
We'll take a look at that in just a minute here. These are reenacted. How many people are involved in the shootouts? How many
About
people
25.
25 different people, and they use blanks to create the sounds and create the impressions of it?
Yes, sir, absolutely. And and we do have a safety demonstration in the beginning, so the people are far enough away where they won't be injured by the blanks.
And so they understand that this is actually kind of dangerous in a way to
It
reenact
can be
these.
if you're too close.
Okay. Okay. Well, there's a number of different scenes that they reenacted, and let's take a look at a few minutes of one of the gunfights. This is the Alice Abbott and the ladies of El Paso. What's the story behind this?
The public arch. There was a conflict between two madams, Etta Clark and Alice Abbott, and they were across the street from each other on Utah Street, which is now South Mesa Street. And one of the girls wanted to roam over to Etta Clark's because she wasn't happy at Alice's house anymore. And there was a fight over the girl, and consequently, a pistol was drawn, and Alice was shot.
Okay, let's take a look at Six Guns and Shady Ladies and the story of Alice Abbott.
$25 for all those dresses and the jewelry that I bought you.
Alice, I don't owe you any money. All you do is lie and cheat. You keep my dresses and my money. I quit. I don't have to work for you. I'm going to work for Etta.
You think so? You're just a drunken little tramp? Get out of here. And when you get back, you're not getting out of my house.
Miss Etta, can I come to work now? I can't. I don't want to work for Alice anymore. She has.
You think
keep my money?
Of course you can, Bessie. Why don't you go back to Alice's, get your stuff, and come on back over here. We'll be waiting for you. I can always use another jewel in my crown.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll be back.
Yeah, go on.
You'll wait for me?
We'll wait for you right here. Go on.
All right, cowboy.
You working tonight?
Oh, yes, but I don't work for Alice anymore.
Who are you working for?
I work for Miss Etta.
Does Alice know?
No, I'm just about to go get my things.
She's gonna.
Cowboy, you get out of here now! What did I tell you?
I told you I don't have to work for you, and I
You
don't work.
think so?
Yes.
You owe me money and you're going to work every penny
Oh,
of
no,
that
I
off.
told Alice you're all back. About that.
You think so?
Sit down, sit down.
Now, what do you want, Alice?
Let her get
I want my girl, Bessie. Now get away.
Alice, I'm always trying to treat you like a lady.
You try to treat me like a lady every time you see a new girl. You try to rope her away. Now just get out of my way. I've had it.
Please, Miss Etta,
She's very bad. Bring her up here.
That's it.
Come on.
Here with you. I'm going to kill you. You and that sister of yours. You're going back to the house. I've had it with you.
Hey, Alice.
What you call me?
I called you bad, Alice.
That's it. I've had it up to here with you and that sister of yours. Dennis, I'm going to kill you both.
What's going on here? Get the doc. Get the doc. Somebody shot Alice.
She shot her. Look at
Hey.
But it keeps you, Alice.
You. She shot. See that? Where's she shot her? Can't tell where she shot her.
Oh, I can see where she shot her. Look at that.
You're going
She
to
shot Alice.
Don't worry, you go back to the house.
Help her. I don't know. She looks pretty mean to me. Oh, I bet you that hurts.
That's the public arch. Now, the reason it's called public arch is because it was reported in the newspaper the next day that Alice was shot in a certain part of her body and they misspelled it, or people say they misspelled it and called it public arch.
That was Six Guns and Shady Ladies, and one of the many gunfights that are reenacted there during the walk through history. Let's talk a little bit about the characters. There's quite a bit of research and costume design that goes into that. How does that take place?
Absolutely. They have photos that they use for the costumes. They can either make them themselves or have them made or rent them. There is a costume company in town. Also, they can go to the El Paso Public Library, to the vertical files or to the old microfilm of the newspapers like the Lone Star that told about the public arch, and get first-hand accounts. And obituaries are very helpful in telling about a person's life.
So they get quite a full picture of the person from this information, and this is how they're able to put the dialogue together that they do there. This was a pretty successful walk through history this year. How many people were out there?
Almost 2,000. We had the most successful we've ever had. It was really quite an event.
And what will the funds be used for? What kinds of things are targeted?
We are putting in water lines. We are having gravel put on a lot of the sections of the graves. We are restoring a lot of the graffiti taken off and some of the stones uprighted and some replaced. We recently had Martin Morose's stone replaced because he just had a wooden cross there, and he was the one that John Wesley Hardin had a hand in getting rid of him so he could take his wife, Beulah Morose. So we just had that done, and a few other crosses of Texas Rangers put in. Ernest St. Leon, he was known as Diamond Dick, and he's not too far from Hardin, and he has a cross on his grave now, and out of wrought iron, so that it won't chip away or rust. And then we have one on General Bravo, who was 63 years a Mexican general, and he was so famous that President Huerta's family was around his bedside when he died. So we're getting a lot of people their graves marked through research.
Sure. And what plans are developing for next year?
Oh, bigger and better, ever more. The county has promised to take over part of the cemetery by eminent domain and promised us some funds to help us get the roads graded and landscaping done and some trees put in and water lines put in. You can see how beautiful the Jewish part is if only you have water. That's the main thing.
So there's some areas of the cemetery that have been more neglected than others, and we hope to be able to restore some of those to their original beauty. Terrific. So we'll look forward next time to more entertainment and Six Guns and Shady Ladies.
We'll be there.
All types of reenactments. That's terrific. We want to remind people that if they want to help out with the Heritage Association or join, they can get in touch with you. Who can we call?
My number is 591-6066, and I'll be happy to help you out there. We have monthly meetings the third Thursday of the month at Zion Lutheran Church there on Pershing, so at 7 o'clock. So we'll be happy to have you come and join us. It's only $15 a year for dues.
That's terrific, and maybe we can preserve and protect and really develop the cemetery and make it, it already is a great historic treasure, develop it into even more.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you, Dean, for coming today and visiting us on Along the Rio Grande.
My pleasure.
And I thought what we do today is close out by listening to some of the music that was provided out there. This is the group The Centurions singing, and we'll take a look at some of the different activities that took place. We hope to have you back on the program again sometime in the future, and we hope to see all of you the next time as well on Along the Rio Grande.
It's gonna rain, you better get ready, and better say hallelujah. I sure know a rainbow sign said it won't be water, we'll find next time. Way back in the Bible days, Noah told the people it's gonna rain, but when it told them, they paid him no mind. And when it happened, said they were left behind. So help me, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain. You better get ready and better say hallelujah. I sure know a rainbow sign. He said it won't be water, but fire next time. They tell me when the water began to pour, ooh, they knocked on the window, they knocked on the door. The people didn't know exactly what to do, and if you ain't careful, it can happen to you. So help me. It's gonna rain, it's gonna rain. You better get ready and better say hallelujah. I sure know a rainbow sign. He said it won't be water, but fire next time. Noah said, I'm sorry, my friends, but God's got the key and you can't get in. If something doesn't happen to change the hearts of men, well, the same thing can happen again. So, brothers, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain. You better get ready and better say hallelujah. I sure know a rainbow sign said it won't be water, but fire next time. I tell you, it's gonna rain. sure know.